Hello, I'm Adi Adedoyin, and this is Sport Today on the BBC World Service. Benfica host Real Madrid in the first leg of their Champions League knockout round playoff tie tonight. The last time the two sides met, Benfica's goalkeeper scored in extra time to book their place in this round. Could there be more drama tonight? At cricket's T20 World Cup, Zimbabwe are through to the Super 8, but former champions Australia are out. And we round up the day's action at the Winter Olympics. All on Sport Today. Join us in the next 2 minutes.
BBC News with Tom Sanders. America's first black president, Barack Obama, has described Jesse Jackson as a true giant after the civil rights pioneer's death, aged 84. Mr. Obama said Jackson had helped lead some of the most significant movements for change in human history. The German drugs giant Bayer is proposing to pay $10 billion to settle claims over the weed killer Roundup, which has been linked to cancer. Most of the money would go to resolving current and future claims in the United States. Police in France have arrested 4 people over the death of a far-right activist who was attacked at a political gathering in Lyon last week. One is said to be a parliamentary assistant to an MP from the far-left France Unbowed party. Reports from Iran say 3 activists have been released on bail after they were detained for signing a petition critical of the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In a statement, the trio described last month's brutal suppression of anti-government protests as a crime against humanity. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators have been taking part in a new round of US-brokered peace talks. Hopes of a breakthrough are low as Russia continues to demand the entire Donbas region, which Kiev has ruled out. The US military says it's killed 11 men aboard 3 boats it alleges were smuggling drugs. It said airstrikes hit 3 vessels in the Eastern Pacific and the Caribbean. The South African government says it expects to provide additional support to the police by deploying the army within the next 10 days. The police said the operation would help cut rising crime and gang violence. The Winter Olympics in Italy have been disrupted by snow. Steady snowfall in Lithuania led to several events being postponed, including the women's slopestyle final. BBC News.
That's going to be the winning shot. Do not believe what he has just done. Unbelievable! Listen to that noise. Has come back to end all comebacks. Can you believe what we've just seen? What amazing drama!
Live on the BBC World Service, this is Sport Today.
And welcome to today's programme with me, Adi Adedoyin. Coming up, rain washed away Australia's hopes at the T20 Cricket World Cup. The former champions are eliminated as Zimbabwe progress to the Super 8 stage. And Canada's Yuvraj Samra makes history.
Brilliant century. What a moment for this young Canada opening batter. He's only 19.
More on that later in the programme, but we're going to start with football. The Champions League knockout round playoffs get underway tonight. The most eye-catching matchup is Jose Mourinho's Benfica taking on his former club Real Madrid. Now, you might remember what happened a few weeks ago. Benfica booked their spot in the playoffs with an incredible 4-2 win against Real in the final match of the league phase, with their goalkeeper scoring a 98-minute header. Let's look ahead to tonight's game with Portuguese football journalist David Novo. David, it's going to be difficult to live up to the drama and excitement of their last game, but still a fascinating matchup in store.
Hello, thanks for having me. For sure, it's going to be completely different for sure. Of course, the last match with that winning goal from the goalkeeper, it was like a movie script, something that it's impossible to repeat. But at the same time, a fascinating match, exciting match, of course. One of the best teams in the world, the king of Europe, Real Madrid, a really tough challenge for Benfica. But of course, playing the first game at home, I think it will be really important for Benfica to get, for example, a draw. It will be a really good result. And then, of course, trying to do something great in Madrid. But, of course, a different game, 2 matches. The strategy from Mourinho will be for sure different. So, of course, we are expecting a tough match today for Benfica, also in Madrid, but exciting match for sure.
Yeah, you describe Real Madrid as the king of Europe. Well, Jose Mourinho, their former manager, is the king of mind games, isn't he? He says that Real Madrid will be wounded and dangerous because of the way that their last match played out. His career has been a little bit up and down in recent years, but he is still box office, isn't he? And he's built for this kind of games.
Yeah, it definitely. I think that that expression is perfect. Still box office. We missed Mourinho here in Portugal. He spent so many years abroad, and now that we have him in Portugal, of course, the press conferences, the mind games, always saying interesting things for us. Now with the Real Madrid, and of course you may know that it's not just the Real Madrid, his former club, because there are a lot of reports, especially in the Spanish press, saying that Mourinho can go back to Real Madrid. So that's been the main topic here before the match, and also especially before the next game in Madrid. And Mourinho knows that everything he says in the press conferences have a goal, and of course he wants to show that Benfica can eliminate Real Madrid. Of course he wants to show that this Real Madrid may not be the Real Madrid that we are used to know, and of course when he says that the Real Madrid is wounded, of course he's trying to motivate his own players. So he's the special one. He still is the special one. He's going to be the special one forever. So of course I think this is one of the key factors of these matches is Mourinho, of course.
You kind of touch a little bit on the next question I was going to ask you, which is how much interest is this tie generating back in Portugal?
A lot, of course. Real Madrid, like I said, one of the best teams in the world. Of course, it's always special for a Portuguese team to face a team like Real Madrid. And like I said, with Mourinho and everything that he represents in European football, of course, a lot of interest here in Portugal, not just from the Spanish press, of course, English press. Otherwise, I would not be speaking here for BBC Sports if it was not because of Mourinho. So, of course, a lot of attention here from this for these Champions League matches. And of course, because of Mourinho, because Mourinho is something global, and of course we are supporting the Portuguese teams, and of course we all want that Benfica can eliminate Real Madrid, and also Sporting, Porto, Braga, other Portuguese teams in Europe can do a great season.
And how do you see this match actually playing out? Because Real Madrid won't want lightning to strike twice, will they?
Yeah, it's difficult because the last game was totally different, because Benfica was fighting for survival in the Champions League. Of course, Benfica risked everything in that match. Benfica needed to win no matter what, and now it's going to be different because, of course, the strategy has to be different. Benfica has to play the two matches. Of course, cannot risk everything today, knowing that there is a second match, a first match in Madrid. It's going to be completely different, but I think that Mourinho, of course, is someone that knows how to prepare these big matches against the big teams. So, of course, expectations for this match and also for the match in Madrid.
Yeah, it's going to be different, but compelling nonetheless. Thank you for joining us, David. Now, football reporter George Addo is also with me. Let's look ahead to the night's other games, George. For the second season running, Paris Saint-Germain face off against domestic rivals in the playoff round. They're up against Monaco. And it was at this stage last year that they really turned their campaign around.
Yes, but this time they have to be very, very cautious because they don't come into this fixture with such great form. PSG suffered a 3-1 defeat at Rennes on the domestic front last weekend, and that result actually has seen Luis Enrique's side slip to second on the league table and confirmed their third loss in 10 outings. The next thing to worry about for the defending champions today is the opponent Monaco, because PSG have struggled to come away with results when they visit Monaco. They have just one win in 6 trips to Monaco, so they need no reminder that this is going to be a very tricky tie, especially when you think about the fact that Monaco managed managed to win their second game in 8 this season. So they are on some kind of form, and this should be very interesting how it turns out.
Borussia Dortmund take on Atalanta. It was a disappointing end to the league phase for both sides. What sort of matchup are you expecting tonight?
Interesting you mentioned that point, Ade, because Dortmund will feel that they have a lot to prove at this stage because they had such a good start this season in the Champions League. There was just 1 loss in 6 games, but they had some really bad defeats that meant they couldn't stay in the top 8 places. So they're on some good form at the moment. Dortmund have won back-to-back in the Bundesliga, scoring 9 goals in the process, and should be very confident. However, Atalanta will be no pushovers. They are also unbeaten in 4 games down in Serie A, and they managed to book their place in the Coppa Italia semi-finals by beating Juventus 3-0 and continue their steady rise on the Serie A standings. Dortmund are favourites, I should say, but this battle will be very, very tough.
Thanks, George. That's George Addo, our football reporter. In the day's early kick-off, Galatasaray ran out 5-2 winners at home against Juventus.
Live from the BBC World Service, this is Sport Today.
To cricket now, and rain washed away Australia's hopes at the T20 World Cup. The former champions are eliminated as Zimbabwe progressed to the Super 8 stage. It was a soggy celebration for Zimbabwe as the bad weather meant their group match with Ireland and Pellikeli was abandoned without the ball being bowled. But the points they were awarded was enough to see them through, and it didn't dampen their spirits. A great day for Zimbabwe, but that point resulted in Australia and Ireland being eliminated. Let's put this achievement into perspective then. The Zimbabwean cricket journalist Dean du Plessis joins us. Dean, we've heard some of the celebrations there, but what was the reaction to Zimbabwe's progress being back home?
Well, to be perfectly honest, a huge amount of happiness, probably also flavoured with a bit of relief, because in 2024 Zimbabwe sadly missed out on qualifying for the World Cup when they were beaten by the likes of Uganda and by Namibia. And that really hurt a lot. And so a year later, they then found themselves having to once again qualify for the T20 World Cup and once again playing the likes of Tanzania and Namibia and Kenya and so on. Now, for a country which has a very, very proud and relatively rich cricketing history, that hurt a great deal. So now the fact that they were able to qualify for the World Cup, and not only qualify for the World Cup, but of course also overturn Australia, which was something very, very special, and then get themselves through to the Super 8, albeit thanks to the weather. It means a lot to not just the cricketing team, but the cricketing nation here in Zimbabwe, who, as you heard by that little clip, are extremely passionate.
Yeah, what sort of impact do you think this can have for the sport in Zimbabwe and at grassroots level as well?
Well, the grassroots level has actually been very, very productive for a number of years. But I think in terms of what impact it would have, you may remember that in the 2022 edition of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup, which was played in Australia, Zimbabwe were actually able to get through to the Super 6 stage where they beat Pakistan. So I guess to a certain extent, it's not really unfamiliar territory. You know, they have got through to these particular stages. But I think what a lot of people would like to see is to see Zimbabwe now play as well as they possibly can and overturn a few more sides. Now, I suppose realistically speaking, it's going to be extremely difficult, especially when you are going to be playing the likes of India and South Africa, both of which are, you know, firm favourites to possibly go on and win the tournament. But if you got this far, you have to still believing in your ability. So in terms of impact, well, I guess a lot of the players who've been performing in this particular World Cup, you never know, they may get franchise gigs with the IPL or the PSL or, the T20 Blast or the SA20 and enhance their personal performances as well. So that, I think, is what Zimbabwe, and also just to be recognized a bit more in amongst the more elite nations as well.
And a final one for you. As far as this tournament is actually concerned, what do you think the Zimbabwe team can actually achieve?
Well, what I'd like to see them do, I wouldn't really want to go out there and just say we've got this far, so realistically speaking, we're not really going to be able to beat the likes of the West Indies and India and South Africa. So we just want to go out there and enjoy ourselves. Many people would subscribe to that. I would want them to be brave and bold and say, we want to go out there and we want to continue to win. There's still one group game or match against Sri Lanka on Friday, who obviously dispatched Australia very easily. But they need to go out there and just to say, we're not here to compete, we're not here to just enjoy ourselves and have a good time. We're here to show you that we can play and that we can compete with the best and overturn the best as well.
Yeah, that match against Sri Lanka will be good preparation for the Super 8 stage, wouldn't it? Thank you very much for joining us, Dean.
Thank you very much for having me.
So a good day for Zimbabwe, disappointment for Australia, out of the T20 World Cup before the final group match. Their former opening batsman, Matthew Hayden, has been given his reflections on the team's exit.
Yeah, there's been some woes. The reactions back home, the mood, if you like, of the nation has been rather heavy. It's a heavy mood because I think we've been sort of sold down the stream a little bit in terms of our selection and how we've gone about preparing for this World Cup. It actually sort of smacks of England and their question in the Ashes preparation. This kind of self-fulfilling prophecy that kind of we're okay and things are, no, don't worry. It's a healthy mix of denial and maybe even just mismanagement. So if you go right back to a selection case, it's not like these World Cups aren't scheduled ahead of time. Australia have obviously been a little bit gazumped by these late injuries. Cummins obviously an enormous loss, and also Hazelwood, that you'd have to say is right up there in the top 5 premier fast bowlers across T20 format. In fact, I go as far as to say ever since he was managed by Dhoni at CSK, he's had a real uplift of the way that he's approached T20 cricket. But look, every nation has got these problems, and Australia's, it's not like their cupboard of talent is bare. Old Mother Hubbard has produced wonderful cricketers in Australia for many years, and we know we enjoy coming to countries like Sri Lanka, and we just haven't prepared for what we've seen. We've picked power hitters in finesse type conditions.
That was former Australia opener Matthew Hayden. History was also made earlier by Canada's Yuvraj Semra as he smashed his way to a century.
Chopped away, down to third man, it'll run away for 4. And it's a brilliant century. What a moment for this young Canada opening batter. He's only 19 and he reaches his first T20 international century.
Yuvraj Semra there, the youngest centurion in the competition's history and first centurion at the tournament from an associate nation. His heroics, however, couldn't prevent his team losing to New Zealand by 8 wickets. Still, the game will be remembered for Semra's innings. It was watched by BBC's cricket commentator Kevin Howes, who can tell us more about him.
At 19 years, 141 days old, Yuvraj Singh Semra, named after the great Indian all-rounder, produced a performance worthy of him. The century broke several records, including the youngest in a World Cup, the first to be scored by an associate player in a T20 World Cup, and furthermore, places him at 5th highest score in the history of the tournament. That's alongside names such as Brendan McCullum and Chris Gale. Born in Ontario, his father, an Indian who moved to Canada, chose his name, and talking today, Yuvraj said how he wished he'd been there to watch. 11 fours and 6 sixes in reaching 110. He struck the ball crisply and cleanly. An otherwise disappointing tournament for Canada, but in Yuvraj, it seems they've unearthed a potential star of the future, whom T20 franchises around the world will be keen to follow up.
The BBC's Kevin Howes there. Now, ski mountaineering, or skibo, is the only new sport at the Winter Olympics. France's Emily Harrop is the hot favourite to become its first Olympic champion. Raised in the French Alps by 2 English parents, Harrop began her sporting life as an alpine skier, but took up skimo aged 20. She's been speaking to the BBC's Ed Harry about her journey through sport, her approach to skimo training, and the role that the French military has played in developing her as an athlete.
one of the big things that changed was when it was announced in the Olympics, it enabled us to become more professional because we had more aid from like the military. The French army has a kind of big, well, like in lots of different armies actually in Europe, they have a section of athletes. So mostly it's Olympic athletes who, they're basically hired to represent the country in sports. And so the fact that we then were going to the Olympics, it made the opportunity to become professional possible. And so just before that, I was just about to quit because it was becoming too much, training and working and, just trying to earn a living. So I was, just like that much away from stopping. And the fact that it became Olympic and that we had these opportunities just kind of made, the life completely change. And that dream then became more of a reality, which was amazing.
How does that work? Do you actually have a military rank as well?
Yeah, of course. I'm a sergeant. But we have military ranks. It's based on experience, how long we've been with the army, also on results. We do the World Military Games, and so depending on how we do in those, also we can get upgraded. But and then we have like boot camps with the army. Yeah, we have like 20 odd days in the year where we have to be present for the army. And what's really cool in this group is that we also have alpine skiers, the best in France, biathletes. We have loads of different sports who, we all come together as a team with the military, which is just an amazing way to share different experiences, gain knowledge from athletes who have been to the Olympics, who have been competing at the highest level and the pressure that goes with it. So that's, a really, really cool opportunity.
Does it give you a different perspective as well? Because obviously there will be people serving in the regular military forces of France, and you're obviously an element of that, but kind of you're part of something a lot bigger and I suppose more directly inspiring and impacting on people.
Yeah, well, that's the hope, that we have. And of course, that inspiration goes both ways because, we are representing them on, competitions, which is a friendly thing, really. And, they're out there ready to sacrifice their lives for the country, which is very different. So what's cool when we do these boot camps is that we go and see the guys who are in the regiments and see how they work, how, their philosophy, their camaraderie. And it is very, very cool for us. There's a lot of things that kind of go both ways.
It's brilliant that, as you say, more professionalism and the link up with the French military to enable you to prepare much, much better. What about, I guess, more generally in French society? Because as soon as the word Olympics is mentioned, and now you're an Olympic discipline, and because of how well you've done, like I said, world champs, World Cups and things, how much are you being talked up as a medal prospect, possibly even a gold medal prospect, and how are you dealing with all of that?
Good question. I'm hugely being talked up about that, to be honest. I was on like a French TV channel, which is the biggest kind of sports channel there is in France, and that was kind of the presentation, biggest Olympic hope. So it's an interesting one when it's your first time going. But I'm just really trying to see it like, it's because they all want us to do well, and they're all behind us, and that pressure is just that we have, a huge amount of support, and that's great.
And you can hear more of that episode of More Than the Score wherever you get your BBC podcasts. Now to the action at the Winter Olympics in Milan Cortina. The men's big air final, which was delayed due to heavy snow, is taking place at the moment and due to be completed shortly. It was billed as a match-up between New Zealand's reigning world champion Luca Harrington and the defending Olympic champion Berkrud of Norway. But it's another Norwegian, Tomat Frøystad, who has stolen the show after 2 runs and leads at the moment. Earlier, there were medals up for grabs in the Nordic combined. Sarah McCurrens was keeping across that. And she began by telling me how unique an event it is.
It certainly is. It is one of 6 sports to have featured at every Winter Games, but it is also the sole Olympic event across both Summer and Winter Games in which only men compete. Now, that has drawn criticism from female participants, and the sport's inclusion going forward is uncertain, with question marks over its viewership and also the small pool of country that provide athletes. In terms of the sport, it is a dual event. The athletes compete firstly in a ski jump, and then they they move on to cross-country skiing. The distance and the style with how they jump gives them their start time. So basically the best jumper will start first with the rest of the field staggered behind him. Today we had the large hill and 10k skiing combination, and it was won by the same man who won the normal hill combination earlier in these games. Norwegian Jens Luras Oftebro was able to claim his second Olympic gold of these games. In Beijing he was also part of the Norway team that won team gold there. They're going to look to defend their title later this week, so it could be a triple gold here for him. And in that team event he's also going to get to compete alongside his brother.
Now, one story from the Games that's really captured the imagination is of two mums who have won gold and bronze for the United States in the monobob. Here's what Elena Mayers-Taylor told our reporter JJ Chalmers after winning the event yesterday.
Alana, 5 games and finally the gold.
Finally the gold. Took long enough, right? But that just goes to show you, even the season was so crazy, so wild. We didn't do well this season at all, and to keep persevering, my team and everybody behind me, it means so much to be able to come away as Olympic champion.
Of course, this is gold and that means so much, but to do it in front of your children, that must be particularly special.
It's so awesome. I think they're mad I left them, though. I think they're more upset that I'm not with them right now than the gold that they're excited about the gold medal. At the end of the day, they just want to be with mommy, but to be able to have them here and to be able to know that they're going to someday understand what this meant, it's incredible.
How have you managed to compete at this level and top it off in such a way for so long?
I have so many great people behind me. I've had so many different nannies throughout the years. My husband, Nick, my family, everybody, the coaches, support staff. It took a lot for the U.S. Bobsled and Skeleton Federation to even believe in me and to say, hey, we believe in you. Take these 2 kids on tour. This is a crazy idea, but we'll support it anyways. And they did, and it worked out.
Well, it certainly did. Super Mum, what a result.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm excited.
Elana Mayers-Taylor taking gold, competing in her 5th games at the age of 41. Her teammate Kaylee Humphries taking bronze at the age of 40. It's been billed as a victory for the mums everywhere, and the Games always throw up stories like this, don't they, Sarah? How much does this epitomise the Olympic spirit?
I think it absolutely does, doesn't it, Adi? Mayers-Taylor, in that interview there, you could hear her speaking about her 2 children, Nico and Noah, who were there. Humphries herself, she had her first child 20 months ago. So both are mothers, both are in their 40s, and this is the first time that has happened, that 2 athletes in their 40s have made it onto an Olympic podium. There's been all sorts of records broken, particularly for Mayers-Taylor, who won this. She had been looking for this elusive Olympic gold. She has won everything else there is to win in the sport. She was able to do it in the most extraordinary of circumstances, and a big win for women and mothers out there.
My thanks to Cyril McCurrans. Now to some other stories making the headlines. Tyson Fury claims he will have no trainer for his comeback fight against Aslanbek Makhmudov. The 2-time heavyweight world champion will come out of retirement on the 11th of April after a year-long spell away from boxing. American coach Sugar Hill Stewart has trained Fury since 2019, helping him reclaim the WBC world title and coached him in the 2 defeats by Alexander Usyk. But Fury says he intends to do it all by himself.
I'm going to train like Club Lang, on my own.
Anywhere.
On my own, anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't need a trainer. I don't need a nutritionist. I don't need a mind coach. I don't need a sleep coach. And I definitely don't need a strength coach. Do it all myself.
But you need someone to do your tie.
Yeah, I need someone to do my tie. And here's what else I need in boxing. Someone to wash me gum shield out and give me some water in between rounds and give me a smear of Vaseline across the eyes and leave the rest to me. PhD in boxing.
Former heavyweight champion Tyson Fury there, ever the character. Just to confirm that the men's big air final has now been completed and the gold has gone to Norway's Tomat Frøystad. It's his first medal in international competition. Mark Forehand of the United States claimed the silver medal. And another bit of news from the Winter Olympics. Lindsey Vonn has returned to the United States after 4 operations on the broken leg she sustained at the Games, but she is yet to stand 9 days after the crash. And one line of football before we go. Bukayo Saka has signed a new 5-year contract with Arsenal until 2031. Sources have told the BBC he will earn in excess of $300,000 a week. That's nearly $400,000 a week. That's all we've got time for. Join us at the same time tomorrow. That's Sport Today.
Sport Today is a BBC Sport production for the BBC World Service.